One of the great dangers of life, in my opinion, is getting stuck, being beaten down by the world, and deciding, okay, I'll just go along to get along. I will discontinue what it was that I thought I was. I will discontinue what it was that I had been building myself to be. I will discontinue all of those things that I had hoped for, dreamed for. And then waking up at some point in your life, or going to bed at some point in your life, as I think probably most often happens, and realizing in that moment this is not what I had signed up for, what I thought I was signing up for. I had given into the malaise of life and just sort of existed for so long that the me I thought I was going to be at one point seems at this time unreachable. Welcome to Strip Cover Lit, where we squeeze the bigger picture out of literature. I'm Adrian Ford, and we are here for another poetry discussion, which will appear in two playlists here on the channel. Number one being the poetry discussion playlist, now over 800 videos strong. Number two being the dark academic playlist, where we discuss the aesthetics and ascetics of dark academia. The poem in question today is known as E Tenebris by Oscar Wilde, and it reads as such. Come down, O Christ, and help me. Reach thy hand, for I am drowning in a stormier sea than Simon on the lake of Galilee. The wine of life is spilt upon the sand. My heart is as some famine-murdered land, whence all good things have perished utterly. And well I know in my soul in hell must lie, if I this night before God's throne should stand. He sleeps perchance, or rideth to the chase like Baal, when his prophets howled that name from morn to noon on Carmel's smitten height. Nay, peace, I shall behold before the night, the feet of brass, the robe more white than flame, the wounded hands, the weary human face. This poem, and we're going to spend some time here. E Tenebris means out of darkness. We'll come back to that. But this poem is about someone who is drowning. In the poem, basically literally drowning, right? But metaphorically, what we're doing is finding someone, happening upon a speaker here that is drowning in the life he did not want. So with Oscar Wilde, I mean, the biography of this poem is something I'm not particularly going to get into in this discussion, but Wilde converted to Catholicism later in life and was struggling with who he was and what the church itself said about who he was. But this is, obviously the poem has the reason it was written, but if the poem is to live on, it is through interpretation by another, and I think that the interpretation here that I'd like to go with is someone drowning in the life that they did not want, and hoping in these moments against all odds, against the world at large, to emerge from the struggle. The struggle is the world that is drowning the individual. The individual wants to survive. The ocean itself does not care if the individual survives. The world itself does not care if your individuality continues, if your individuality carries on. You have to fight, swim, float, struggle to maintain the individual in you. E Tenebris, tenebrism. If you've been around the channel for any period of time, you know that if I have any excuse to talk about Caravaggio, I will do so. And I'm going to show you what tenebrism is. This is a painting from Caravaggio, The Entombment of Christ, I believe it is called. You see how stark this painting is. Caravaggio, relied on tenebrism in his work, the contrast between the light and the dark, the background being completely black, the highlights even on the fleshy characters, the highlights so bright that they are nearly white, the whites pure, and never even, if you look real close, well, I guess over here very rarely, but on the figure of Christ here, the whites never falling completely into darkness. They are so highlighted here. But that extreme contrast of dark and light. I think that the obvious interpretation here, E Tenebris, out of darkness, especially as this playlist has been sort of progressing, would be to assume that what we're going to talk about with this poem is emerging from the dark academic turn, but that's not where I want to go with this. I think that what we have here in this struggle, in this poem, we'll go back to this very first stanza here. Come down, O Christ, and help me. Reach thy hand, for I am drowning in a stormier sea than Simon on the lake of Galilee. The wine of life is spilt upon the sand. My heart is as some famine-murdered land, whence all good things have perished utterly. And well I know my soul in hell must lie. If I this night before God's throne should stand, he sleeps perchance or rideth to the chase like Baal when his prophets howled that name. I think that this is representing the turn into dark academia, not the expulsion from dark academia. I think that what this poem better represents is the state in which one finds themselves when they decide that dark academia, a dark academic turn, is something which will profit them and their existence. This feeling of overwhelming notness, this feeling of overwhelming mundanity, this feeling of overwhelming drowning into the sea, falling beneath the waves, succumbing to the everybodiness of life. Look, to be an individual is to sacrifice getting along. It just is. If there are things that you wish to accomplish in life, if there are things that you want to do, want to change in life, for others, for yourself, normally, I think, if you change things for yourself, it ends up changing things for others. This recognition of the need for change is one that is difficult, feels like drowning. I think a lot of people do. I think a lot of people succumb to that. I think a lot of people wake up and they have discovered that they are not living a life that is genuine to the self, not living a life that is true to what it is that they find valuable, not living a life that is authentic to the individual in question, the individual in question being the individual that you have decided to be. And so we have to not just decide that we are going to be an individual. There are great extents to which we have to go to be an individual. It's not going to be comfortable. It's not going to be popular. I think that the authentic self, I think that the individual who finds who it is that they are, what it is that they do, and the arena in which they wish to make their difference, their mark upon this world, the place where they wish to stain the silence, I think that that is a painful transformation to go through. And it's going to feel like drowning. But I think that once you start to create here in this discussion through dark academia, the individual that is authentic to the self, it becomes something with which one cannot live without. I think that what happens is there is a flip somewhere where it becomes not painful to make the change to being someone else. It becomes painful those moments where you are instead going along to get along. That is all I have for this poetry discussion. If you like or appreciate what it is that I do on this channel, hitting the like button really does help me out, as it tells YouTube to share this video with other literature lovers. If you find yourself here by chance but not design, literature is the only thing I talk about on this channel, dropping multiple videos every single week. There is poetry every Monday, and as always, I hope to have you back for the next one.